And I'm going to hit the go live button.
All right.
So I had to get that. Hey folks, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. It is February 23rd. It is high noon in Eastern Standard Time. And I'm Teddy Burriss, and my good friend here is Randy Wooden. And today is going to be a good show. We're grateful and appreciate the fact that the Elder Law Firm is our sponsor. The Elder Law Firm is in Greensboro, North Carolina. If you're helping elderly parents or elderly friends in their transition into retirement planning and into elder law needs and requirements, look up the Elder Law Firm in Greensboro, North Carolina. Absolutely would be a good conversation for anybody who needs their help. So, hey, Randy, did you get a good night's sleep last night, buddy?
I did. And you know what? I'm just fiddling around here with our LinkedIn to get everything up and running. I did it. In fact, thanks for asking, Teddy. I need all the beauty sleep I can get. So,
well, that's why I asked. I was wondering if you got shortchanged last night. So.
I think I should hibernate for the winter time. But in any event, Randy Wooden with Goodwill Industries of Northwest North Carolina. And I run our professional center. So as you might expect, to help folks, much like those that are watching us today, or will watch us on YouTube, or when we post it on social media later. So I help professionals with a job search. We're free. We work by appointment. So just reach out to me through LinkedIn. You can find me. Easy to find on LinkedIn. So do that. And like I said, we're happy to help regardless of where you live or your industry or your job title. We work across a lot of different spectrums there. So much for me and for what I do at Goodwill. Teddy, who are you?
Well, Randy, I just looked in the audience, and there are three people in the audience who I don't think know who I am, but I'm still going to introduce myself to them. So for anybody who's not met me, I'm Teddy Burriss. I'm a LinkedIn strategist, coach, and trainer. I also teach Google Workplace to business professionals. Love helping anybody who want to master those business tools on a regular basis. For me, it's a lot of fun. Someone asked me the other day, Teddy, why do you keep doing this? And I said, because I have fun doing it. I have fun meeting new people.
Yeah.
Who want to do it a little bit different, a little better. But today, our special guest is a friend of mine from a long time, downtown Winston-Salem. His name is Mr. Jeff Smith. We call him Jeff, or we call him Smitty. And those who don't know who Smitty is, you're missing out on a really useful, enjoyable resource in Winston-Salem called Smitty's Notes. Google it. Just do a Google search for Smitty's Notes. So Jeff's joining us today. So Jeff, I appreciate you jumping in, buddy. Good to see you.
All right, glad to be here.
Hey, would you share a little bit more about who you are? Because Smitty Notes is a big piece of who you are, but it's not all that you are. Would you introduce yourself a little bit better to the audience, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Jeff Smith, and professionally, I was a litigation paralegal for 31 years. I worked 10 years in private practice and then 21 years in the corporate environment, and really enjoyed it. It kind of blended in on what I'm doing now, which is called Smitty's Notes. I retired in 2018, so I've been able to dedicate to it full time.
Yeah. And living in downtown Winston, you from your venue, you get to see a lot of what's going on in downtown Winston.
Yeah, sometimes I can just look out the window and see what's going on.
I hear you, buddy. I hear you. So.
Hey, folks, let me just hop in here real quick, Teddy, with some housekeeping stuff. And that's this. If you have comments or questions for Smitty, put them in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on that. If we have comments that we'd like to work in the conversation, I'll do that. But yeah, I've been reading Smitty's Notes since I moved here in 2000. So it's and frankly, as a new person coming to town, this was a real useful idea. And somebody turned me onto it, and I said, wow, okay, here's a menu of things we need to be checking out because we're new to the area. So I'm looking forward to today's conversation. I think we've all at times kind of wondered what's going on, but you've seen so much over the years. So again, if you have questions, comments, let us know, and I'll keep an eye on that. So Teddy, back to you.
You know, Jeff, when you and I talked, we thought of a title for this conversation you and I are going to have. And one of the titles we pegged was to quit or keep going.
Correct.
You know, and when we started talking about it, I said, man, you know, a lot of people in life, a lot of people in their jobs, their businesses, but business owners, you know, spouses often have to ask themselves, do I quit or keep going? It's a big conversation we may not have publicly, but by golly, we have it every day.
Yeah. You know, I've been doing this newsletter, Smitty's Notes, for 25 years. So I've had many of should I quit or continue on periods during that time period, going back to 1997. And, you know, I've been trying to figure out, you know, each year, what am I going to do next? You know, evaluate what I'm going to do next.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but let's start with how did you decide? What was the conversation about in your head and with others to help you start this journey?
There was no conversation. I mean, basically, it was just 10 of us trying to figure out what we're going to do for the weekend. And so it started as a kind of like email, just like, you know, to different friends, what are we going to do for the weekend? And then, you know, for some reason, one day I just happened to get an email in my box, and, you know, considering 1997, you know, getting an email in your box is pretty cool. But what happened was, it was an email that I originated. You know, it was my email that I was copied on. So I just called it Smitty's Community Notes as a joke, and this is a community service announcement, and just listed events, what was going on for the weekend.
Yeah, I remember 1997, Jeff, and it was February of 1997 that I moved to North Carolina. And I remember the company I worked for, I was the dude who brought email to that company.
I believe it. You're a trendsetter, Teddy.
Yeah. But think about this for me. Oh, by the way, I need to ask this question, man. I've been dying to ask you this for years. How did you get the name Smitty?
Fortunately or unfortunately, Smitty was given to me by one of my drinking buddies one night. He always, like, you know, gave everybody a nickname, and my nickname turned out to be Smitty. So it stuck. Yeah. And that's what everybody called me.
Oh, good. He didn't do you wrong, dude.
Yeah.
Real good. Yeah. So I like that. You didn't sit down and write a business plan up. You sat down and said, let's tell people, I want to tell my friends some ideas that's going on. And lo and behold, that message went around and came right back to you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of grew. You know, about a year later, Mary Junker, who used to write for the Winston Journal, put a note in her column saying, hey, if you're looking for things to do in Winston-Salem, this is somebody who's doing it. So with that, I got 50 emails in my box when I got home. And considering 1997, 98, that was a lot.
Yeah. Now I got to ask, was your email Hotmail, Yahoo, CompuServe, or AOL?
AOL.
I gotta figure, man. Yeah. Wow. So, but you do way more.
From that, it really grew.
Yeah.
It grew from that.
Yeah. Now you do way more than just Smitty's Notes. I mean, you're actively involved in our community. Talk about a little bit about that, would you?
Yeah, I also have sat on boards over the last 20 years, the Downtown Partnership, Arts Council, Echo Council, everybody can help out, Council, which is part of the Winston Foundation, and I serve on the Millennium Fund board. So, you know, that was my contribution to what we were looking at to kind of like move our community forward. Yeah. So it's like one of those things in which, you know, everybody says, well, if I ever get in a position, I'm going to change things. Well, you know, that opportunity came, and I worked to kind of like change things.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Hey, I had a question that kind of wanted to ask you. You mentioned the word change, and that kind of just brought it to the front of my mind. And we've seen a
Right.
big, what I'll call positive change for downtown Winston, as far as nightlife, activities, restaurants, that kind of a thing. And just, I'm sure you've spoken to others about this. What are some of the big changes that have there been short bursts of big change, or has this just been an evolving kind of thing? I'm sure you've seen quite a lot throughout the last 25 years as how I guess the downtown Winston landscape has changed.
Yeah, it's been kind of like an evolving thing over the last 25 years that I recall. The big thing was to get some buy-in from some of the building owners that, things were changing, and could you make a contribution toward that? That was the big thing. And number two was just trying to keep, young people involved in Winston-Salem and trying to make the downtown area attractive to Winston. When a company comes to Winston-Salem, the first thing they ask the recruiter is like, how is your downtown? And the big thing is that downtown is everybody's, front door. So we had to work on getting our downtown up to snuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you. So
this is just a start.
It is. But you know what? That's when you get the ball rolling and it keeps rolling and more people want to be a part of it. And more people want to push the ball and help it happen. And that's the really cool magic. And as a,
Teddy, also too, one of the things that made the newsletter successful is that is trust. And I had to trust the business leaders and community leaders to kind of like accurately talk about what was going on. And then I had to trust the subscribers. They had to trust me to kind of like, see that things were actually happening in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah. And focus on giving your audience what they want.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm learning that, buddy. I am really. So, all right. So you got the Smitty's notes moving. You're outside of AOL now, and you're doing things a little bit different, a little bit more. But you have to make changes. You have to make changes along the way. You can't just stay the same thing. That's how you become a dinosaur. Talk a little bit about some of the pivots that you made, and why did you make the decision to make those pivots?
Yeah. The first pivot was probably in 2000 when we were, wanting to keep young people in Winston-Salem. And, I had to point out to some of the community leaders that, the reason people aren't staying is because of X and Y. And so that was the first pivot from a bunch of friends trying to figure out what we're going to do Friday night to actually being a young professional advocate.
Okay.
So that went on for about 3 years. And then after that, it became more of a newsy type thing, just letting people know what was going on the community development side, where, new restaurants come in Winston, where new businesses coming into Winston, things of that sort, or their events in Winston. So we kind of made that pivot also. And then the next pivot was actually me serving on board, actually talking about what's going on and what are the boards doing to make things happen in our city. So that was one pivot. And then the other pivot was actually I've got multiple sclerosis, MS, and I had to make a decision probably in 2000. I think I was stricken in 2009. So in 2010, I had to make a decision: is this best for me and my health, and can we still do Smitty's notes? So I had the conversation with myself, and I decided that I could continue on, but it's going to look a little bit different.
Yeah. I'm with you.
How long does that? I got to ask you. I mean, how long does it take? Now you do this on a monthly basis. It comes out once a month, right? Smitty's notes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
On average month, how many hours does it take to crank this thing out?
Well, I mean, probably 3 hours, but also I'm actually thinking about the next newsletter. What am I going to put as content for it? What is happening in Winston-Salem during that time period? So during that time period, I'm reaching out to various sources. I've got some sources that have been with me since the early 2000s and everything. But I found out that with each newsletter, somehow a theme comes about. And I don't know what happens, it's serendipitous or what, but it all comes together toward the end.
Yeah.
I wonder too, with COVID, I mean, everything shut down, right? Smitty's notes didn't shut down,
No,
but I'm sure the landscape changed about 2 years ago that, hey, nobody's going out, we're all staying in. So that might even be another pivot. Let's talk a little bit about what happened with COVID and how that impacted your newsletter.
With COVID, when it first, happened, pretty much the whole city was shut down. And I had to figure out exactly one, what am I going to do to kind of like keep everybody informed? And number two was, how was everybody going to eat? Because, a lot of folks were in a situation in which the restaurants were closed altogether, and that was their source of kind of like going out to eat and everything. So we definitely put a link toward the governor's site to talk about the coronavirus, to let everybody know in Winston what things we had to worry about related to that, and what was the government's view on it. And then the second thing, I collaborated with a couple other bloggers, and we put the restaurants that were doing curbside service or still, open to a certain degree. And that was like very important during that time period to kind of like, one, talk about COVID, and number two, figuring out where you're going to eat.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, I mean, a lot of restaurants couldn't make it happen for lots of reasons, but a lot of restaurants, they pivoted. I'll never forget coming down, and I didn't go downtown a lot because I was trying to, be safe myself. And I live out in Advance, but I remember coming down to Winston, and I remember hearing and seeing a lot of restaurants that, man, they had their A game on to serve their clients to the best of their ability to serve their customers at the curb.
It was funny too, because a couple of restaurants actually opened right before COVID. So, when that happened and, everything got shut down, and especially the restaurants, they had to like pivot themselves, figure out exactly how we're going to survive. Are we going to do curbside? Some restaurants actually did some grocery items, to get people to come by their space to pick up takeout and also quickly shop for groceries.
Yeah. Get a roll of toilet paper and a burger.
Exactly. That's what it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So pivoting became a really important to you. Not only because of your personal life and, but also because of COVID and that's just the last couple of years. But, and now that you're retired from, you've been retired for what, going on 5 years now?
4 years. Yeah.
So, you got to constantly be asking yourself whether or not you have a business or you have a job. You got to be asking yourself, am I doing the right thing? And could I be doing something different and or better for all involved? And so,
I think it's natural for any business to kind of like evaluate and see if they need to go in a different direction. With me, with Smitty's Notes, kind of like every year, I sit back and assess and still make a contribution to the community and in Winston-Salem. And when I had that conversation with myself, I decided if we should go forward. And luckily, the last 25 years, I've been lucky that, we've been able to go forward. But it's even more now because, when I started this, I was 33 years old. I'll be 58 in a couple of months and everything. Does it still have the value that it had when I was in my early 30s to where I am today, both professionally with Smitty's Notes and personally with me? So I had to go through that pivot too.
Yeah. But let me ask this, Jeff. I get it. You and I have talked about this a little bit, and I absolutely understand you've got to have that conversation with yourself. But do you have those kinds of conversations with your, what I call your inner circle as well? Do you get their thoughts?
I do it more. Yeah, I do it more now. The last 4 or 5 years, I reach out to a friend who may be involved in marketing. I reach out to a friend who, is pretty close to my way of thinking, and ask, is this the best thing to do, or do we need to do something different with the newsletter?
Yeah.
So we always kind of like have a conversation. And now that more people are using Instagram, there are actually two Instagram folks who have started their own kind of like Smitty's Notes thing to kind of inform the professional crowd and everything. And it's given me an opportunity to kind of like peer into the Instagram world and figure out what they're doing, and can we make some changes, or you kind of see that maybe they're the ones who know the audience a lot better, and kind of like let them be.
Yeah. Let them hang out on Instagram. You jump on TikTok, dude.
Yeah, me and you will do a TikTok challenge one day.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Don't be throwing that down at me. So you got to keep thinking about, is it the right thing to do? And so, we talked a little bit about let me get you to peel back a little layers. At some point, was there some really nagging thought in your mind that maybe it's time to quit? Did that ever happen? And how did you overcome that?
It's more now than before. One thing about the newsletter is, and Smitty altogether, is that there are many parts of Smitty's Notes. There's the newsletter, website, community work, board work, troubleshooting, problem solving, things of that sort. I had a dinner program for 10 years, Evening with Smitty, which paired community leaders with folks around Winston-Salem, and I had to make that pivot too. I had to make a decision: was that the best thing going forward? I mean, it had 10 years of life to it, and you have to make a decision. Is this the best thing to kind of like let it go now because it served its purpose?
Yeah.
So I had that conversation, more now over the last 2 or 3 years. Does Smitty's Notes still make a contribution? And if it has, then maybe it's time to put it down. I don't know, but that's part of the conversation today.
Yeah, I remember the dinner of 8, and I mean, you touched 1,000 some odd people back in those days.
Yeah, we had about 1,400 people who attended the dinner program, and probably 70 community leaders over the 10-year period. So it was a great thing. It got people networking with each other. Folks made friends with each other, helped friends get jobs with each other. Had 3 people that got engaged to each other, and 2 people got married. So, hey,
how about that? Hey, maybe Teddy can put this in the notes, but if somebody's watching and would like to subscribe to Smitty's Notes, it's free, right? Free to subscribe?
It is free. Actually, all you have to do is go to the website, smittysnotes.com, and then a pop-up comes up, or you can hit the subscribe page.
I got it.
Yeah, and as with any newsletter, you can always unsubscribe if you decide to, but if you'd like to subscribe, you say it's smittysnotes.com.
I got it.
Correct.
Smittysnotes.com. Teddy's right on the,
I just dropped it
on
in
the spot
chat
with it. There it is. Yeah, we've got some folks, by the way, Smitty, that are watching us from out of town, so it may not be applicable to them, but you know what? It may be that this gives them an idea for what they could do in their town, or maybe they know somebody who might pick up that idea and run with it.
That's a good point, Randy. But also, too, people sign up for the newsletter before they get to Winston. They actually kind of like are doing a reconnaissance about what's the flavor of the community, what's the flavor of the events, what's the flavor of news, and everything. So I have more people, over the years have signed up for the newsletter before they get to Winston. And then once they get here, they can hit the ground running.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that I know folks that no longer live in Winston who say they stay subscribed to Smitty's Notes so they can stay in touch with what's going on, even though they're living in Seattle and Japan.
Yeah. You know, one thing I found out early on was that people sign up for the newsletter or go to the website. Reporters do to kind of like figure out who they need to kind of like reach out to for sources to get information. So, you know, I've worked with the folks from the New York Times and the Washington Post on various stories over the years, and they've been kind to me too by mentioning my newsletter, which I've gotten national exposure to.
Yeah, real cool, real cool. So keeping it going and making decisions of keeping it going is something we all have to deal with in our businesses, as in our careers, and our in our side hustles. I mean, there's a lot of people who are doing side hustles nowadays. And by the way, it used to be when you talked about someone doing a side hustle, you go, "Oh, he's struggling for money." And nowadays, when you talk about someone doing a side hustle, they're doing something that they love to do.
Yeah, it's about, you know, kind of like a creative outlet for me, because, you know, working in the legal profession for as long as I did, you know, it gave me something to kind of like reach out to that I had some control over. You don't have control over some things that related to, you know, things that you're dealing with litigation, but you do have control over something that you're passionate about. And for me, it's been, you know, the newsletter, website, and all that is encompasses Smitty's Notes.
Yeah, I wonder too, and I could draw parallels to what Teddy and I started a couple of years ago. I mean, we just said, "Hey, let's try this, see what happens," you know, that kind of thing. Do you have times where, especially early on, when you were kind of dreaming that forward thinking and saying, "Wow, this could really take off," or were you kind of slow and steady kind of thing and say, "Well, okay, we made it for another month. No, okay." Or did you just kind of say, "Hey, man, this is a really cool idea, and we can make something of this thing. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I'm excited about it"?
Yeah, I kind of hit that decision point probably in 1998, 1999.
Yeah.
When I realized, you know, we've always said when we were 18 to 21 years old, you know, and moving forward, if I ever got an opportunity to kind of like, you know, do something that's going to help my career, I'll do it. Well, you know, I got some opportunities that were presented to me, and I said, "No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it." Well, it got to a point that this opportunity came around. I said, if I don't really kind of like work and make this happen, I'm not sure any other opportunities are going to come along. And so that's why I kind of like spent a lot more time with it early on. But what happened was, as soon as I did, you know, spend more time with it, a lot more opportunities open up too. So, and that was a good thing.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's about 1/2 Teddy. So if I'll stall for just a moment here while you have the note, and when Teddy's going to do the 1/2 sponsor mention, but there is a question in the queue that be thinking about it, Smitty, and that is, any thought of creating an app in this digital age, thought of creating an app for Smitty's Notes. So we'll get to that in a moment. Teddy, you want to tackle the 1/2?
Hey, you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy, and our special guest today is my friend Jeff Smith, aka Smitty of Smitty's Notes. Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy is sponsored in part by the Elders Law Firm out of Greensboro, North Carolina. Who's important to you and how you plan to honor those responsibilities to them is important also to the Elder Law Firm. They want to help you help others in their estate planning and in their matters that are relevant to them as they transition through life and get older. If you don't know the Elder Law Firm, but you have those needs to help your friends and family, look them up in Greensboro, 336-396-4551. Randy, go back with that question, buddy.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything's now, well, we have an app for that kind of a thing. So is that on your radar at some point to create an app for Smitty's Notes?
No, I haven't even thought about creating an app for it. I'm not sure it's something that that we want to do to kind of like be part of the whole Smitty brand.
Yeah.
So haven't created an app for it.
So there's no app for that, but that's okay because people can sign up. They can still get it through their email. I get it every month. I get it. I used to get it at the beginning of the month, and sometimes it gets there a little bit later in the month. Is that by design? Is there something that has caused that? Do you know?
I used to do the newsletter twice a month. It was the 1st and the 15th.
Okay.
And then probably about 6 or 7 years ago, we kind of like shrunk it down to about once a month. And the reason being is that there are a lot more events that are going on around the city to kind of keep people busy. So we decided to kind of like take things down to once a month and kind of like talk about some of those events.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the things that I've had to kind of like consider too, going to once a month was that how much is it going to be taxing to me to do the newsletter twice a month? I mean, and that's a lot. I see the newsletters on that people are doing related to the Instagram site, and they do it weekly, and I look at it and go like, how in the world are they going to do that and sustain, you know, that for a long period of time?
Yeah.
Do you have a backup person? Let's say you get sick or you want to take an extended vacation or something. Is there an intern? Is there a sub? Is there anybody, or is that, I mean, you've had to ride this horse for 25 years and there's no break.
Yeah. Well, I've got a ghostwriter, so somebody can help me out on certain things and stuff. So that's been a big help. But as far as like going forward, I guess what was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, just the idea that, I mean, if you were doing this twice a month, I mean, I write a column in the Winston-Salem Journal, and it's every other week. So some months it's 3. When there are 3 or when there are 5 Sundays, I'm writing in 3 of them. And it's not an arduous thing. It doesn't take me a long time. It doesn't take me as long as it does you. And I can write about whatever I want to. It doesn't have to be current events. But I feel like I'm married to it in that I can't just walk away from it. Now, I can do more in advance than you can because your stuff is all timely. I'm just thinking, I'm wondering, the clock is ticking every 2 weeks. So you're going to have to crank something out. So do you have a backup? Do you have a support staff? Anybody, if you get sick, that can jump in and be Smitty for a while?
Yeah, it's all me. It's all me. And you get to look at it too that at one time I did the newsletter. I did a column for the Try It Style, then Relish. I also did radio, and I also did TV with the Backside 12. And I had to
And you had a full-time job.
Yeah, I was going to say, you also got a paycheck,
job.
you know. So.
Exactly. So I was juggling all this, and then I made the decision that, you know, with those entities, we can kind of like share information because we're basically tailored toward different audiences. So I was able to kind of like use stuff at different vehicles to get the word out. So that was pretty cool.
So Jeff, here's what we're going to do. Randy and I are in our 2nd year of the journey that you are on. When Randy and I hit our 25th anniversary show, we're bringing you back on as our special guest.
Okay, sure.
A mere 23 years from now.
Yeah, because I mean, just the show that Randy and I do, you know, it's once a week, but it's you know, it's a lot of work. But you know what? Randy uses the phrase that I absolutely subscribe to, that I imagine you subscribe to as well. And when we talk about what do we do, how do we pivot, how do we adjust, both of us use the phrase, it's a labor of love. We love doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, talk a little bit about the value to you personally for you to do this show.
Well, I mean, really, the reason why I did my first pivot to make it more of a community advocacy newsletter is that for me personally, I was watching my city die. And, you know, we had an exodus of corporate headquarters, League Winston-Salem, Wachovia, RJ Reynolds, things of that sort. And the vibe was, around that everybody was like walking around with their head down.
Mhm.
And I said, I've watched three redevelopments go on in Winston-Salem, and I said, we can't keep doing this and it's not sticking. And so I kind of like made it a passion to kind of like put some people to the fire and ask them, what are you going to do about this and what are you going to do about that? I was actually called a angry young man back in the day.
Angry young man.
I
Well,
don't remember seeing that myself, but
No, I don't either. But going back to something you mentioned, and I'm paraphrasing here, that when companies look to relocate here, one of the things they ask is, "What is your downtown like?" They're also
Exactly.
looking to find talent. They want to find, is this a place where I can find skilled workers? And for what we'll call the millennials or that younger generation, this city has moved from the tobacco, textile manufacturing stuff more into healthcare and high tech, that kind of thing, and that attracts typically educated young workers, and who actually, a lot of them like to live in downtown Winston because so much is happening. Go back 20 years in time, there was no place like that for them here. And there wasn't as much going on. So it has helped to attract businesses to the area and to grow the economy.
Everybody's always asking why there's so many apartments being built in downtown Winston now. And it's because we got a lot more to offer and people want to be closer to it. We got like 2 apartments that are going to go online probably toward the end of the year. And that's going to be exciting because that's going to like add a lot of energy to our community, especially in the downtown area. You said something important too about workforce development and everything. For SciTech, I made a strategic decision back in the 2000s to like be a more advocate toward economic development.
Mhm.
So they have been training people to be part of the workforce in healthcare, in aviation, and also in the creative class, so to speak. So that when companies do come to Winston, they can actually like see that we can kind of like ramp up because we got the personnel and the talent here.
Yeah. So it all kind of interweaves, and you've been a big part of that, and a steady part of that for the last quarter century.
So
Wow, cool stuff.
Try to make my contribution.
Do what you can for as long as you can, and then hand the ball off to somebody else and let them run with it. But
my line, Jeff, raising 4 daughters, my line with my daughters has always been, I never said, I don't care what you do. I said, I will support you in anything you want to do as long as along the way you are contributing to your society.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think everybody has to, make a contribution to their community. And, so be it. Smitty's made its contribution over the last 25 years.
All right. So let me ask about your support team. And I'm going to put it in this context. So along the way, you've had to make changes, you had to think about changes, you had to find the right stuff and systems and resources to help you. Who have been some of your best, and you don't need to name names, but your best advocates that did this for you, supported you and challenged you?
My web developer, / SEO, search engine optimization person. I made a decision early on once I started doing the website that I know nothing about websites, so I'm going to outsource that.
Yeah.
So, and he's good at it and everything. The second thing is that I've always had a marketing person to kind of like look at things, and so when we make our pivots and everything, we can kind of like talk about it and make sure we're going in the right direction. And then I have a graphic designer who does a lot of graphic design work and everything some of the things that the web developer can do, but he has expertise in. So we've always outsourced things that we've needed and not try to do it ourselves.
I get that. Let me come back to that question and ask it a little bit differently. Have you had someone along the way, in 25 years, who said to you, Jeff, I don't think that's the right way to go. You should consider this. Have you had those kinds of conversations?
Usually it's with a marketing person who kind of like tells it like it is to me.
Yeah.
That, this may be something that you might not want to go through, or if you go through, these are some of the pitfalls. And then also my web person, we talk pretty much either by email or by the phone, every couple of weeks and everything. And, basically we're kind of like, he challenges me, like, is this something you want to do? Or is this something that you want to kind of like broach with the hosting company to kind of like do some technical things of that sort?
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I get lots of people that I rely on to give me ideas. And equally, I rely on people to make sure I'm not going down the wrong direction. Example, this morning, I got dressed to go do a public speech, and I put on a pair of, I think I told Randy this, or I put on a pair of pants that were pleated. And my wife said to me, I just read somewhere that pleated pants are out of style. I went back.
So he didn't wear any pants. He just went without pants. He just said, I'm done. So,
real good. Jeff, this is fun. I like this conversation. So share a few ideas, if you could, with the audience of what thoughts that you think they can take away from this conversation for them in their own endeavors. What are some ideas you have for people to think about? Should I quit or keep going? And what do you think they should be thinking of themselves? I got the number one. The number one is, you said, have conversations with yourself. I love that. And I'm wagering it's an open conversation, which means you ask yourself good questions and you listen to how you respond. But what other tips do you have?
Well, the big thing is, if this is something that you're real passionate about, chase it. Chase your passion, because you never know how it's going to turn out. It could turn out that it's something that you like doing, but it's not a big money maker. But so be it. You like it. It's part of what you do. And the big thing too is that definitely kind of like have a conversation with yourself and figure out if it's the right thing to do, and if they need to change, be open to any changes that are happening with it. That's been the most important thing about it, is being passionate about what I do, and number two, just being open to change.
Yeah, I get it. So real cool. There's a television show, I think it's on Netflix or something I'm watching. It's about some scammer named Anna, but there's a scene in the show where this maitre d' at a hotel has a dream to be a film producer or a director. She wants to be a film director, and she keeps telling everybody, I'm not quite ready. I'm saving up my money. I'm saying, this is like, through 4 episodes of this series. I'm not ready. I'm saving up my money. And finally, her boyfriend or her husband turns to her and says, I'm tired of hearing that you're going to become a film director. I want to hear you are a film director.
Film director, correct.
Yeah. Sort of along lines of, there's an old proverb that we used to hear when we were kids. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was, do this or get off the pot. Just do it. So real good. Randy, anything else that you could come up, or question you have, buddy?
No, I don't have anything in the chat box, but I'm always curious the why behind why somebody does it. So you've done a good job talking about that and the passion, but I've got to think, because you are human and you've shared some thoughts about this, is that while you're passionate about it, sometimes you kind of do a sanity check and say, wait a second, is this still making sense? Am I going down the right path? but yet you stuck with it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. And something that we talk about it at Goodwill, and I've talked this for years, is some people are afraid, for fear of failure and fear of success. And when something takes off, like yours has, it took a lot of work. You're not an overnight success. But is there that fear that, oh no, now I own this thing and this thing's growing like weeds, and and it's me, and oh, I didn't think it would get this big. Do you ever get that feeling, kind of saying, ooh,
Yeah. I mean,
things,
you know, you kind of
yeah,
like, you know, dip your toe into the water and like,
mm-hmm.
you know, see if I can kind of like swim or at least flag a little bit and everything. But also too that, you know, you got to realize that you're not getting any younger, and you got to like just plunge in and just do it. You know, you have to figure out exactly, you know, what it is. And in my case, there was nothing to kind of like look at, you know, in this area. I mean, it's nothing to look at, you know, nationally now. I mean, it's kind of like a one-off type thing. And so, you know, you have to reach out to other people and get advice from folks and be open to change. And that's why it's been successful this far.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to draw a parallel. Randy and I are 2 years into the journey that you're 25 years in. And I don't think we've had a conversation about stopping, but we've absolutely had conversations about how to adjust, how do we adjust? Because if we're not adjusting and serving the needs of our audience, then
Exactly.
I'm like, if we showed up week after week and only had 2 people show up, you know, we'd love those 2 people to death, but we'd be realizing we're not really impacting anybody's lives.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you guys have made an impact in people's lives. So, and that's rewarding, that, you know, that something that you're passionate in can be shared with somebody else and it's made an impact.
You know, Smitty, the way, and you may not know this, but what happened was when COVID shut everything down back in March of 20, they sent me home from Goodwill. Teddy, all of your in-person speaking gigs dried up, just like they did for everybody. And we were in lockdown. And I forget, I think I got sent home on a Tuesday. And I called Teddy later that week and I said, hey, if you're like me, we're stuck at home here. Why don't we do a talk show on job hunting? And so the first week it was just the 2 of us for an hour. And we think we're these comedians and we're all of this and that and everything else. And while it was fun, we got a lot of people that tuned in, probably from the novelty standpoint, like, what's this? But then I think, Teddy, was your idea to bring in a guest. And that's when the show really began to take off, because now we could bring in people like you. I mean, nobody wants to sit and listen to Teddy and me for an hour every week. I mean, there's nobody, but when we can bring in talent like you, who has conversation that's impactful, it's interesting. It's not necessarily job hunting, but it does tie into workforce development. So there's that tie in, but also the whole thing. And we all face this. I faced it, and Teddy and I share a story at the end of our show today, and I'll share my own journey about that. But we all face those times where we say, okay, do I stay with this thing or do I bail? And we get that way in our career. And it's, do I stay in what I'll call a comfortable rut?
Yeah.
Or do I make that career pivot to something else, not knowing necessarily that we hope it's a good move, but we don't know for sure. And is it the old frying pan into the fire? I think we've all faced those times in life. I know I have. Do I stay or do I go? That's an old song, isn't it?
It might be.
Isn't it the Clash?
The 8 tracks.
Is it? I think it's the Clash. Do I stay or should I stay or should I go? I don't know. Anyway, Don't make me sing that, Teddy. Just
I won't. You know,
Smitty.
Seth Godin wrote the book, The Dip. Seth Godin, the book is called The Dip. And in the book, he says, never quit when you're at the bottom. He says, because that's just giving up. He said, you should always quit at the top when you ask yourself, oh my golly, I did all this work. I've achieved all this. Is this the right thing for me to keep working on achieving, and quit at the top? Now, it's hard for me to envision not quitting at the bottom. But I understand the perspective. You know, how does that make you think, Jeff? What do you think about that idea?
You know, I mean, it's a great idea. You know, Seth Godin is one of my favorite people. I see him speak down in Raleigh at the Digital Summit every once in a while, and what he says is timely. And I agree that, you know, you don't want to quit when you're down the bottom, and you want to have some success. You know, another book that I like, and it was actually one of the first business books that I read, was Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. That related totally to what I was doing. You know, as far as, you know, at what point does an inflection happen or a spark to an idea that makes it go forward? And I think that's a good read for anybody who's, you know, starting out and not sure exactly, you know, what they consider was a hobby. Do you want to kind of like take it on full time?
Yeah, I'm with you. I have 4 daughters. I tell the story, Jeff, that do not have jobs. They all have their own businesses, plural. And one of my daughters started just taking old furniture and rebuilding it and repainting it and selling it. And she did it with the goal of making $150 a month to pay for preschool for her daughters. That's all she wanted, was $150 a month to pay for preschool. Well, she's pretty much turned off every other business venture and work that she's doing, and she's whole hog into doing this furniture thing because she is way past $150 a month.
Right.
Yeah, and she went for a passion. She loved taking old furniture and turning it into something, and she still loves doing that. And people like paying her for it. So, you know, it's a win-win. But cool. So, Jeff, thanks a lot, buddy. I really do appreciate you showing up as I'm telling Alexa to be quiet. Good to see you again, man. Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it. So,
all right. Thank you, Randy and Teddy.
Hang tight, Jeff. Well, Randy's gonna have a story, and I'm gonna have a story, and we'll tell everybody who our special guest is for next week.
I don't know if you had any takeaways, Jeff, you wanted to share. If there's any, 1 or 2 quick points, something you just say, listen, if you remember nothing else from today, remember this. Is there anything you wanted to share?
Always chase your dream, man.
Yeah.
Always chase your dream.
Yeah. That kind of falls in nicely with my story. And, life's not, you can't live it backward or whatever that phrase is. And we make mistakes, and we try to do the best we can, given the information we have and our intent and so forth. But I remember telling people, the kind of work I do now, I got started doing back in the 1990s. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Kind of like you, long time ago. And the company I did it for, let's just say the business practices were not squeaky clean, a little on the edge. But I really liked the product and the service. It just needed to be sold cleanly and have expectations be proper. And I remember I moved here, and for a couple of years I was in sales, but I wasn't passionate about the industry and for that matter, sales in general. I mean, I could do it, but it wasn't a passion of mine. And I remember telling people, I said, you know what, I'd like to go back and do the kind of work I did in Ohio, which was helping job hunters do a better job of the job hunt. And I'd been a recruiter, and I understand that side of the business. And so I thought I had a lot of knowledge here. I could leverage that. And I remember telling people, I don't want to wake up at age 60 and wonder what if. And at the time I was in my, let's say, early 40s, 41, 42, about 20 years ago. And I had some good years, had some very lean years, and a lot of challenges along the way. But and I had times too, Jeff, where I said, and to my now ex-wife, but I said, I wonder if I'm doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
I love what I do, but I'm not making the money I need to make. And 2 kids and house, all that stuff, right? And so you have all these pulls on your time and your money. and you're trying to follow a passion, but I kept trying. It just, I'd take a job somewhere else and I'd keep my side business going, doing the career coaching kind of stuff. So I always kept that flicker alive while I go out and make money somewhere else. But then the opportunity with Goodwill came around, and, somebody, I don't know, it's Teddy or somebody else has said, hey, you know what? You are where you need to be. Mm-hmm. And while the timing wasn't to my liking, I wish this had happened a long time ago because of the financial strife and just the ups and downs and the stress and everything else. I'm where I need to be because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm good at it. And I'm given the latitude with my employer to be creative, to get things done. And I've built that trust over the years. So it's a journey, but I'm just like you, Jeff. There were many times where I'd sit there and I go, am I doing the right thing here? Do I really need to keep riding this horse, or do I go somewhere else? And I had people throughout the time say, hey, you know what? You got to do what you got to do, but man, you're good at what you do. And you have no idea the impact that you're having on people's lives. Mm-hmm. And that kind of choked me up at the time because I never really thought of it that way. And the more I think about it in Goodwill in general and how we impact people's lives, you can't put a price tag on that, I guess is part of what I'm saying. And that is exactly what you were saying. You may not make the money you need to make or want to make, but there are other values that you have tied up in that. So again, it's been a long journey to be where the three of us are today, because Teddy, you haven't done what you've been doing your entire life. You made a huge pivot with no, and with no guarantee that it was going to work. Yeah. But I've never had somebody, and I'll end with this. I've never had somebody as a client of mine who went into business for themselves, even if it crashed and burned, bankruptcy, losing everything, all that. None of them has ever said that they regret that process because they learned so much about themselves. Yeah. Okay. And if nothing else, life's that journey and we learn as we go. So thanks again, Jeff, for hanging in here. And Teddy, I know you've got a good story to share, and we'll talk about next week, and then we'll head out and get some lunch.
Yeah. Hey, the title of the conversation is Quit or Keep Going. That was how we got started this discussion with Jeff's Smitty of Smitty's notes. Quit or keep going. It was December 15th, 2010. I walked in the office and I on 2nd and Broad Street, Jeff. And I know you know where I'm talking about. And I handed my car keys for my company car. I handed the American Express. I handed them back their cell phone and the keys to the executive washroom. And I said, see you later, corporate America. I'm done. And I went on a 30-day trip around the country with no revenue coming in and no plans for revenue coming in for 6 months. And I started this business as Teddy Burriss, LinkedIn strategist, trainer, and coach. By the way, I didn't know what it was back then, but I knew that I was going to start my own business teaching people something as a teacher, as a trainer, as a strategist. And I started, and by the way, this was my name tag. When I quit the job, I got this name tag, networking strategist. I keep it on my desk because that's the core of what I am. I didn't know how I was going to create this dang business. I had no idea. But don't be afraid. I kept telling myself, don't be afraid. You're going to meet the right person, have the right conversation. As long as you stay focused on your goal and pivot and adjust appropriately to get to wherever that goal becomes, you'll be successful. And I always kept asking myself, am I doing the right thing? And Jeff, I'll tell you this, you may be able to relate, and Randy can probably relate. There were times when I said, I got this close to giving up. And I was considering taking a job, and I would consider looking at jobs. And I remember every time I got into that mindset of quitting because I was at the bottom, it became more painful. But when I stopped looking at a safety net, when I stopped looking for a way out and I got focused on doing it, it would come right back out.
Exactly.
So that's my story. I did that. I've been through, and I'm working on year 12 in this business. And I just know that when I stay focused on giving value to others, helping others, and doing the things I need to do to get there, I'm less likely to quit. I'll just keep moving forward. So, Jeff, thanks for sharing with us, buddy. I really appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank y'all.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Our special guest next week will be Mike Fenley from Senator Richard Burr's office. And the conversation is going to be about employment scams and how we can protect ourselves. So show up next week. And again, we're grateful for the Elder Law Firm being our sponsor of Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. See you guys later on.
Have a good week. Thanks, Jeff. See you.
Thank you.